Greetings and salutations, you beautiful individuals. Welcome to another episode of the Week Online. Eric and Mark here with you guys for a little bit of global power rankings. It's happening, the first one of the spring split. Yes, it's way too early. Yes, these are going to fly all over the place. You know, the typical preamble and prefacing that we have to do for this event, for these rankings. But let me tell you, the top 10 very early on here looks a lot different than in splits past.
I just said yesterday that it was way too early to do one of these global power rankings, but I think the situation, when you look at how things have changed since first stand in almost all of the major regions, it is worth taking a stock of where we are right now and seeing where things have changed, because frankly, within these 2-3 weeks of gameplay that we have had since that first stand event, it absolutely has really rocked and changed how some of these global standings could look. And let's take a chance and take a dive into it.
And doing it a little bit differently today, we're going to start at the top of that table where, yes, the top 5 is, those squads aren't supposed to be there. And fresh off of what I'm already going to call the banger series of the week, even though it's the first day of games for the week. KT versus Dplus on the Rift, a pair of 40-minute games, 45 minutes in game 3. Dplus has a 5+ K gold lead, end up falling to the wayside because of a Neferi top, more so BDD's performance, but Dplus was right there in that whole series and is one of the main reasons why they're hanging out in the top 5. That and the Gen G upset, of course.
This feels like the fancy version of movie theater nachos, right? Like this is like some gourmet, type of cheese that's real stinky and special artisan crafted tortilla chips or whatever.
It's served
that's
on a barrel. Yeah.
It was the luxury fiesta this time around that we were treated to between both of these squads, because yes, it was still kind of the classic fiesta that we do see when both of these squads match up with each other, but there was a higher level of play and a higher level of stakes on the line, given the success that we have seen early in this split from both of these squads and the lack of success, I think you could say, by the expected favorites in the region. So to see this matchup come through and to have it play out the way that it did today, I think you can't step away happy, relatively happy, even if you are the loser, Dplus Kia in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of positives to take from both sides of things. How about Perfect, the champions picked this series? I mean, he dominated on the Yorick game. Vayne in the first game, and then this Neferi pick, the synergy with Effort's Lulu and the ultis combined were actually pretty disgusting. But Perfect really stepping into that next carry up alongside BDD on the squad.
And I'm not sure exactly how to work it out, but that Yorick game, I don't know what the percentage is on, Perfect just being, he's that guy on Yorick, maybe? Or just maybe playing into that Siwu and Lucid were doing some really bad stuff in that top side and egregious type of choices up there as well to lead into it. I think when you do look at this and at this time, I want to give some credit over and absolutely eat my words on aiming with KT Rolster. I think that he has been a big part of why things have accelerated and been so good for them in the last couple of weeks. He has had a good contribution, and this is someone that I think a lot of us, myself included, doubted heading into this year if he was going to be that right option for KT. And he has been a more than good enough option, and one that has been contributing at a high level, so I got to give him his credit.
22 kills, 2 deaths, 21 assists in games 2 and 3 did KT end up winning for aiming. So yeah, absolutely a standout performance series for him as well. Hanwha Life sandwiched in between those squads, and you might say, well, shouldn't Dplus be higher? They contested KT. Hanwha's beaten Dplus in that head-to-head. Yes, they have that bad T1 loss, but they have still been maybe the most convincing squad in their wins. They're first in plates per game and first in Baron percentage.
At the very least for Hanwha Life, they seem to be the Hanwha Life that you envisioned them to turn into at some point in this year, right? You are starting to see exactly the threat that they can represent within the LCK. You're seeing Kanavi take over and be that aggressive jungler and play style that we know he can take. You've had strong performances from Zeus, Gumayushi, Zeka. You've had the important members finding good plays, and that's a big thing for Hanwha Life. And again, at an extra premium when the expected teams that are going to be at the top in the LCK are frankly just not the top teams in the LCK right now. So for a squad like Hanwha Life to be playing more so towards that expectation, they get that benefit in where they are ranked.
Final two squads on this list are, of course, a couple of LPL ones. Top Esports has wasted no time ascending back to that 2025 form with Jackie Love and Tien, who we have mentioned. They've got wins against both AL and JDG, who are the main other members of that top three in the LPL last split. And with the kind of turmoil hurricane that's going on in the LCK, it means it's an easy top spot for BLG, even though they haven't really faced the tougher part of the LPL. They did beat JDG, of course, in their debut for the season, but then it's just Weibo and World Elite. But carrying over some of that first stand, easy to slide BLG into that one spot.
It is, and I don't want to sound like a hater, but I think that the way things are shaping up at the top here, BLG might start really running away with how things are in this situation, given where they are in the LPL, and again, how things are in the LCK, and maybe anticipating some of those, teams that you expect to beat to bounce back and whatever. BLG could be in a position where they are going to have heavy expectations towards an MSI event, and I don't know, again, heavy favorites, that type of pressure is exactly the situation you want to be in if you are BLG. But right now, you wouldn't rather be any place but where BLG is in the LPL and the record that they have put forth. The only other one, as you said, that is in the same stratosphere of conversation right now is Top Esports, and especially the Top Esports that has resurged with Tien joining that lineup. And I think as well, keeping that performance from split one is Cream is having a good split two here as well, and that is again one of the big things that can push this Top Esports team into that ultimate tier where they can contend with BLG.
And won't have to wait long for that Cream Knight matchup, as next on the docket for both of them is the head-to-head TES BLG. Obviously will have huge implications on how this top five plays out for next week. Next on the board, as he remove the magical rectangles and look at 10-6 on this board, it's this looks like it should be the top five. Well, for some of these squads, maybe not the European squads, but there they are. It's Gen G and T1. And again, I can't remember the last time Gen G, at least, was outside of the top five when we did one of these global power rankings. But you'd be kind of insane to put them in there right now. I know we just have them on the bubble at 6, but they just haven't been that level.
It is absolutely wild that we are in this type of situation. I think, one, it is already still somewhat unexpected that you're here with T1 in this case, but this is something that you have actually seen from T1 in various iterations before, a fluctuation of that peak in performance and where it is, and knowing that, frankly, that peak has almost always come for the World Championship in the most important times that you could come through. So there is a little bit of that in that regard. But for Gen G, this is that uncharted territory to have these struggles and to have it, frankly, in this micro examination of split 2 so early in this split. This isn't something that we see from a Gen G team. I think you talked about that yesterday. There is some type of mojo, cloud, whatever is going on outside of On the Rift with Ruler and his situation, and how much that's affecting him individually, and how much that actually is playing in to the rest of the team and their preparation and focus for these matches. That is absolutely something that is a factor. How much of a factor? That's debatable on the day, but it clearly is. And that is something that is going to have to be, frankly, find a way around, because it ain't going away anytime soon for Gen G or for Ruler for that matter.
And, T1, as we said, has that history of falling outside of the top 10 even, and, not looking like a top-tier team. But we have the faith, they have the precedent of getting back to that level. We don't know that about Gen G. They've just consistently been elite and the team for the better part of 3 years. So can they just turn things back on? Because it's not like the numbers aren't still there. They're not as dominant, but they're still good at laning, all the things that they've dominated at. But it's just something feels off in terms of the synergy and just overall atmosphere of the team. So we'll see if there's that bounce back with the rest of these LCK squads leveling up as well. A couple EU squads hanging out on this 10-6 zone, and again, we've harped on the difference in games played between Vitality and KC, but really, KT is the only team that's played, well, most of the LCK squads are the only ones that have played nearly as many games as Vitality, but this team has delivered, even if it's not always the cleanest. They have come through in the clutch.
And this is another one where it does deserve its recognition at this point. Yes, it's not the full achievement that still has to come through for this group, but it absolutely is a level of success that I don't think a lot of people were really envisioning or buying into this roster when you saw it come through for Vitality, and especially the big leading charge members in Humanoid and Karzi. I think there's absolutely ones where people had their doubts, but both of them have found ways to step up, deliver some of the performances of old, and really be some shining stars in the LEC. Again, Vitality, one of these situations where almost a spotless record, and one of these ones where you can only do what is in front of you, and they have absolutely aced it so far.
And I don't even know, can't keep track of how the awards are handed out in Europe right now, but right now, for Spring Split, Knock Knocko's the front runner for MVP, and I don't think anyone else is close.
No, I don't think so. I think he certainly has been that type of difference maker, and individually has been that type of special player that has made the extra, level up for this Vitality squad, where again, they've done everything that you could ask for them at this point. The only thing is whether can you doubt them as far as maintaining it as the schedule lessens out, as it becomes a little bit, more infrequent in that sense. Can you maintain the same locked-in type of performance? That's going to be something that is needed to be seen from this Vitality squad.
The other two teams on this list, JDG and KC, we're just basically waiting for more games out of them. I know 1 and 2, how are you in the top 10? Well, JDG actually played their best series against BLG that we've seen in 2026, which, is saying something considering how some of them went recently. But expecting them to climb back up, and KC they're the only team that beat Vitality, even though it was due to a Vitality throw. We're expecting KC to either stay here or even climb higher within these top 10 rankings as the season goes on. Move on to that other big board, 22-11, and this is where the rest of the mess from the West is hanging out. There's a lot of both EU and NA representation to get through, and really most of these teams, if not all of them, have a question mark between them, but we start with the trio Cloud9, 11, Navi 12, and then TL at 13.
Yeah, and I think when you are looking at where you are here with these LCS and LEC teams, frankly, it's a product of how things have been so unpredictable in the LCK and how things have turned out there, that it creates this type of environment, this type of space where, again, early in a split, a lot of LCS, a lot of LEC teams can find themselves grabbing a spot even within the top 20, even if it's not exactly inside the top 10.
And, a lot of the questions, when the records are so similar, 2-2 versus 3-1, and overall game score is a couple games difference, well, you're kind of looking at what's the level of competition and how clean, dominant have the games been. Like Team Liquid, you could probably say have been cleaner thus far than Cloud9, but C9 has a head-to-head win against Lion with defending champs first stand, blah, 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 and same with Navi and EU, probably been more clean than MKOI at 2-2, so that's why they're a few spots ahead.
I think the real question here is, out of all of these LCS and LEC squads, which ones do you see staying at least within this top 20 to top 11 type of range? That is, I think, really the big one. And I think for me so far, right now, I'm getting more confidence in Cloud9 to some degree about that, but still hesitant. And I think, when you are looking for anyone else, and especially one of these LEC squads, Navi is certainly someone that still can provide that type of angle if you are looking at who's going to stay in this type of range or be able to maintain it, as we expect a couple more LPL and LCK teams to filter on in through.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Navi, if you're following the path of last split, dominant regular season to pretty quick bow out in playoffs. I hope that's not a repeat performance here in spring, but until they're proving themselves in the best of five, so I'm gonna be a little hesitant on feeling super good about them. But some of these other non-Western squads in between, a surprise 3-1 start for Invictus Gaming, and of course probably would have had them a little bit higher, but the 0-3 Weibo grenade got them on the day to give them their first loss. But if you haven't been paying attention, this has been Reynard in the mid lane for all the games so far, not Papa Rookie in the mid lane for IG.
Yeah, it has been a very different look, a kind of feeling almost as if it is a new era, if it is supposed to be this ending of Rookie's career. But it very much so was this red hot start until the Weibo grenade gets thrown into the pockets, and unfortunately that is a lethal event that happened for this IG squad. And yes, it is still good start, and as absolutely has been more than noteworthy enough to do it without Rookie at this point in stage for IG, but it still is one of these ones where maybe a little bit of cold water poured onto it thanks to Weibo.
They started 2-8 in split one, so they've already surpassed their win total in the regular season from last split. So yeah, with Mako back in the lineup, they seem like they've got their heads on straight, looking much better. Same could be said for some veterans over in Nongshim, who what is going on with these first stand teams? Only BLG is immune as Nongshim knocks BNK to a 1-4 start, and then G2's 1-2, Lion is 1-1, struggled a little bit against Dignitas. Something happened with this post-first stand hangover.
Which also, first off, very quickly on Mako with IG, give him a quick little congratulations on, I think it is an 11,000th career assist. 11,000 career assists. Like, again, it's a bonkers number.
This is year 12 for him. Year 12.
How successful and how long he has been able to be successful in the LPL. So I want to give him that little mention there. But yes, the Noodle Boys, they get it done. They show more success. And I think this is, again, one of those ones where it is bittersweet because it is good for Nongshim. You are seeing more of the signs that you want to see from them to be a playoff caliber team, one of these teams that can contend and push and maybe challenge and overthrow again, given the unstableness of the top teams of the LCK right now. But then you look at what they did it to, and you look at BNK, and you realize where you have fallen since first stand and everything else. This is the furthest fall that we have seen since first stand. No question about it. BNK is very much so struggling. And it's one of these degrees of struggle right now that even with how unpredictable and uncertain things are in the LCK at this point, you can be relatively certain that this struggle isn't going to sort itself out anytime soon. And it is going to spell disaster for BNK, at least in Split 2.
I mean, you combine with, again, Vikla being subbed out. Daystar has been starting games. But yeah, they're 1-4. They are 10th, dead last in the LCK right now at the worst time, because this is the record that carries over into the second rounds 3 to 5. And looks like they are crash course to hang out in that Fries group, which, I mean, after Split 1, I don't think anyone would have anticipated.
No, and I think certainly for them, knowing again, how are you to improve? How are you going to be challenged? How are you going to sharpen your skills? It's against the best of the best within your region, and being in that top group does matter. Even if, again, you go through it like a KT roaster, getting beat up on all the time, whatever, that experience does matter in there compared to hanging out with the bros. It's a very different story at that point. So very much so an important thing, and I don't see it turning around for this BNK team. And frankly, things have regressed to the point where all you're going is, oh, that was a cool pop-off play by Dplus, but we're still losing the series unquestionably at this point. So that is absolutely, I think, the saddest story within the LCK right now.
If there's the VIP lounge for the top 5, BNK's playing at that old, now abandoned bar that used to be everybody's favorite, but now it's, basically a dungeon hanging out down there. And unfortunately, some of these squads holding on to the top 20 might join them soon. Now, Lion and G2, I'm not really concerned about. They're going to climb back up, probably closer towards that top 10 as the split goes on. But in the 19th spot, Anyone's Legend, I'm a little more concerned about. Their only series win has been against Weibo. They're sporting the worst goal differential at 15 among any team in the LPL in that upper or lower group so far. And we're seeing when Tarzan has a bad game, this team looks bad.
It feels like, Tabe was the man behind the scenes weaving the yarn to make that rope, right? It's got to be wound nice and tight, really, strong and everything, so you can tie all those knots. As soon as he leaves and that process ain't going on, feels like every little strand, every little fiber of that string is starting to separate, and all you're left with is just this mess of fabric in your hands, and you don't got a completed item. That's Anyone's Legend at this point in the LPL. They ain't a completed item. They are absolutely one of these teams that is, I think, in a free fall. At some point here in the next couple of weeks, it has been a struggle for them, and you don't see that rebound. You don't see that regroup or take a step back, re-examine things, and this is how we're going to approach it. You don't see that, I think, with this Anyone's Legend team in the same vein that you could have last year with Tabe behind the scenes.
Yeah, and even in Split 1, you were still kind of going, well, we're waiting for the shades of AL of old, but it never really came through. They were still good at times, but they've been 0-2'd in both of their losses. It wasn't particularly close. Top Esports is ascending. IG is even higher up. I'm the most concerned of maybe any of the teams on this board about Anyone's Legend as the LPL continues to roll on, and maybe even a squad like TSW, Team Secret Wales. They've only played a couple series and, maybe didn't have as big an impact on first stand as CFO have had in the past, but you best believe they'll be hanging around this top 20 as we progress forward in the split, but still way too early to actually do these, which means they'll be completely different next week. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute stunners. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you on that flippity flip.